So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you, and how are you fighting the good fight for all of us hobbyists?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for those that don't know, I am Ryan LaTourette. I'm in Michigan. I'm the director of regulatory affairs for the Great Lakes Drone Company, and we are fighting the good fight. The organization that I'm part founder of is a Michigan Coalition of Drone Operators, and we seek to make sure that drones can fly in the Michigan skies unabated by uh, ordinance or overzealous regulation. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So Ryan, thank you for taking time to talk with us today. And
Absolutely.
I want to apologize in advance for getting all riled up because you were recently involved. Tell us your involvement in the court case in how do you pronounce it? What county? Genesee?
Genesee County.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last year we had a court case in Genesee County, and some of you may recall that Jason Harrison was actually arrested or
Was this
detained.
the big truck thing, the monster truck thing?
No, well, sort of. Yeah, it was a park that has trucks that go through a four-wheel drive park.
Yeah, yeah.
They call it the mounds, but Genesee County as a whole was prohibiting any drone operators from flying in any of their parks. And Jason Harrison flew in one of the parks, got detained. His drone was confiscated, as was his cell phone, his GoPro. It took everything from him. And they said, you flew in here illegally. Well, Michigan has a state law that says no local subdivision can create or enforce their own drone ordinance. So Genesee County was actually in violation of state law by creating that ordinance. They doubled down and they expanded their ordinance, and we took them to court. And in February of this year, or end of January, early February, we won that decision that said, no, you are correct. Genesee County is wrong, and go fly in the court or go fly in the parks as much as you want.
Excellent.
Now we have a new case.
Okay.
So Ottawa County, other side of the state, has now stood up and said the same thing. They said, no, we can rule our own park system, and they've expanded that to say, not only can you not fly in the parks, but you can't even fly outside of our courthouse, our jail, our city buildings. And they put a $500 bounty, basically, to collect for anybody who does. So we will be in court on September 10th. And we are, going to win. I'm 100% confident of that. The law is on our side, and we're facing a county attorney who has an ego, but not quite a legal argument.
And precedent has been set, right? I mean, based on the other case, does that make a difference?
Not really. So the way it works is when you're at that first court level, you get a decision. So the precedent is set for Genesee County, but not as the state as a whole. So what has to happen is Genesee County could appeal, and if they were to appeal and we win, now we get a statewide precedent. The same thing would be if we win in Ottawa County, which I'm pretty confident of. We expect that the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners is going to vote to appeal, and we'll get into that appellate court, and whatever comes out of that now becomes our statewide precedent.
Okay, that's good. This is what we need. This is what we've needed for a long time.
Yes.
People that have the wherewithal to follow through with this, because there's so many situations where people just, okay, it's too much trouble, forget it, right? But not you. You're on a mission, and
that law said, it said, because I just watched something about this in preparing for tonight, preparing to be a good co-host. I saw that it said you can't parachute or balloon or fly an airplane into the park, right? That was actually how it was written.
Yep.
And the dude was like, no, this is none of those things. That does not apply.
Yeah, well, and that's another piece of it. So if, let's say you are flying an ultralight, right, and you're flying over the property, you're in national airspace, you're under the jurisdiction of the FAA, no problem. And what the county's saying is, if you land in our property, now you've got a problem, right? But think about this. if you are in an ultralight and you have an emergency situation, the FAA says you can land anywhere.
Yes.
Put it
Right.
down
Yep.
right now.
Yep.
You're okay.
Yeah.
And so for the park to come out and say you can't do that, they're in violation of the FAA as well. So we have this push and pull to say, here's the county wanting to have local control, and yet the state tells you no and the federal government tells you no. Guess who's going to win that battle?
The feds. Yeah, every
You
time.
bet.
Now, is the county's problem with the camera or the flying around? Because they
Well, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because the latest ordinance that they put in place said not only can you not fly, but you can't record or surveil an area. So what they're looking at is saying you can't even bring a camera into the county building and record. Let's say you're paying your taxes. I can't record me paying my taxes with my phone.
it's because you pay your taxes that I can record you.
That I can.
Right.
Yeah.
First Amendment.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so they did this, I think, in two forms. One, they were looking at how egregious can we make this ordinance such that maybe the judge strikes down the half that's a First Amendment concern and keeps the drone portion of the amendments. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think what we're going to focus on is saying, hey, state law talks about you cannot do anything with the drone, and we aren't going to pay attention to the First Amendment. And I suspect the judge is going to strike down both halves.
We definitely need people in this chain of authority that know something about drones, because it always seems like these out of touch people that lump all flying things, fixed wing, everything all together. And you're I hate to do this. You're spying on me and my wife and in the backyard and my daughter, and you're a prevert and we hate you. You know, that kind of thing. Isn't
Yep.
it? It's always like that, and it's always the people that are a little bit shady as far as neighbors go that are always worried about that being spied on. Like, we're gonna find
They got those classic cars under tarps in the backyard.
right. Like, you're protesting a little bit much. You have a cockfighting ring going on back there or something we need to know about? You're growing the Myra Jerome. What are you doing back there that I need to worry about?
What's interesting to me is, Ottawa County has gone with the argument that, well, we need to make sure that you're not surveilling or you're not intruding upon privacy, which is kind of that interesting argument. Like, what do I have an interest in seeing you as an ant at 100 feet, AGL? But the other piece was Genesee County was on the other end of the spectrum, and they were saying, well, it's a safety concern. You could attach a flamethrower to the drone, right? And it's like, yeah, maybe. Okay. No, that's not going to happen. What are you thinking? Right?
Yeah, that people
You
don't
could
know the
also-
difference between military drones and the public drones. That they don't sell a Mini 2 with Hellfire missiles that I know about so far.
You could attach a flamethrower to your truck, to your motorcycle. I mean, that's the other thing about it is the ridiculousness of the fact that it is totally impractical to do the kinds of things they're talking about people doing, number one, and number two, a lot of these laws I think are very outdated. They're just based on technology and things that were going on 50 years ago and need to be updated.
Yep, and innovation always outpaces legislation. And another thing is, sure, there's Walmart drones, there's toy drones, and then a person in authority will meet someone with a Part 107 certification that does know a little bit more about this stuff than your average bozo. So when someone like us, like the people watching, are confronted by local yokel people who say, "Oh, you can't fly here," and we try to educate them, and boy, have you noticed they just don't want to be educated, do they?
Roscoe P. Coltrane.
I have some information for you there, Skippy. You want to, you have to use tact. Never argue with them. You have to treat officers with respect.
Yeah, I don't think Skippy's going to get you very
far.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's how I feel deep down in my heart.
Have you ever actually seen that video of Russ when he was questioned by an officer about flying? He was flying in his car.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he handled it really well, I thought. And he had his camera rolling the whole time. I thought the way it was a good thing for him to put out there because it did show everything was fine at the end.
Yeah.
The guy basically told him it was private property. You can't fly there. He left, etc.
Right. Even if the law is on your side, you can't be as much as I want to be. You can't be snarky about it because snark doesn't get
you. Can really?
Well,
really?
snark doesn't get you anywhere with law enforcement.
I'll share with you my favorite story.
All right.
I am right near Lansing, Michigan, so I fly down at the Capitol building for the state of Michigan quite often.
Uh-huh.
And, this is quite a while ago, back in 2015, so even before Part 107 came out. I would be flying down there and train the Michigan State Police who were on post to guard the building. And so I would allow them to fly the drone, with my direction. I would teach them on drone laws and regulations, how to handle concerns that might arise from a drone. And one night I decided, well, I'm going to go down, I'll fly. So I took my Inspire down with me. And the police station for the local police, the Lansing police, is right across the street from the Capitol building. I happened to launch right there. Out comes a rookie cop. And he sees the drone in the sky, and you can see his eyes light up, right? He's like, get that thing down now.
I got one.
Can't fly here. And I just happened to say, under whose authority? Rolling
You did.
my eyes.
Oh, you said that out loud to him.
Well, yes.
Oh,
So
boy.
Did you say under whose authority, Skippy?
Don't say Skippy or sport or boss or chief.
Right.
Don't say any of those things.
So he comes rolling over and just very demanding. Bring it down now. And I said, okay, I'm bringing it down. I guess I wasn't bringing it down fast enough for him. And so he says, well, I'm going to call the Michigan State Police. I said, you do that. Go ahead.
Oh, boy.
So here he is getting on his, walkie-talkie thing and giving a call to the Michigan State Police. And at that point, I'm pretty well down with the Inspire, but he's still coming towards me. And he's probably within 15 feet of me. And I said, dude, get back. I'm landing this thing. Well, that set him off the edge.
Oh.
He decided I'm a big threat to him. And so he made sure that the state police knew that they needed to be there now. Just at that moment, coming down the wrong way on the one-way street in front of the Capitol is the Michigan State Police car. Comes roaring in, screeches to a halt, and out steps the officer and says, hey, Ryan, I haven't seen you in a while. Do I get to fly tonight?
He said that?
Yeah, so here's this rookie officer, tail between his legs, like, what have I just done?
Oh, man.
I like to stand there as the professor and listen to, as my student, the Michigan State Police, teach the Lansing police officer all about drone regulations as I smile. Right?
Well, yeah, well, that's fortunate for you, but so many people get in the similar situation where they don't know the cop, and then rookie cop will call another rookie cop. Before you know it, they've tackled you on the ground. Your drone is still hovering. Which, by the way, it's illegal to mess with a pilot while he's flying. Yeah, that's a great story. I'm glad it ended well for you. Let's talk about municipalities that will just put these signs up just because they don't like drones. Like at the park.
Seeing a lot of that,
or they'll,
no
because
drone zone.
No drone zone. It's not backed up by any kind of law or legislation or even rules. They just don't like it. They went down to Kinko's, made a sign, and then put it down there at the beach or whatever. How do you fight that?
Yeah, so we're seeing that a lot here in Michigan even. The state parks have decided that they would put up no drone zone signs, right?
Yeah.
I happened to be out in Holland after I stopped in at the Ottawa County board meeting, and there's that no drone sign. So it's right next to the entry point of the park, and all the park rangers are right there. And so I thought, what a great place for a selfie with a drone in the air as I'm flying. Yeah. So
and you did.
I do challenge with things like that. But yeah, we're seeing that more and more. I know down in Florida, Ken Dono just had an issue where a cop came up to him and said, hey, didn't you see the sign? There's no drones in this park. They don't have any ordinance that backs up that sign. Yet they're willing to say, hey, you can't fly here. This is a no drone zone. And we need to be able to push back. We need to be able to organize as a community, right? So you've got other flyers that are right in your vicinity, or maybe there's, your area of the state, and be able to say, hey, we need to visit City Hall and talk about these signs, get them removed, or challenge them on that idea that they have a drone ordinance in place.
I think a lot of times it's just laziness, because they don't, it costs money to train officers on these things. And they just have a blanket, nope, because you can fly in certain situations. Maybe there's places, critical infrastructure, where you can't, but they don't know that. They're just, we don't like it, so we're not going to do it. Let's touch on, and I know this might trigger some people, there's just people watching that have dealt with Homeowners Associations. Oh boy.
That's a Congress of Karens, isn't it?
Oh man, a Congress of Karens, no doubt. You can't have a green door. Your lawn can't be more than 3.5 inches high, and no drones. Well, not really. I've run into that a couple times just doing real estate in these places, in the homeowners association cesspools, where they come running up, sir. So no, I defer to the federal government in these cases. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, so in the same thing, I'm one that would defer to the federal government to say, hey, it's airspace. Airspace is public, and that was under Cosby versus U.S. That's already been decided. I think the one challenge is if you live in that homeowners association, now, okay, it gets a little more tricky where you've signed up to all the rules and regulations that they've put forward.
Right.
If you're in that situation, go off site and try to fly. You're still bound to it in some fashion, but you at least have a fighting chance to go back to your board and say, hey, look, we can change this rule and get it eliminated, or I'm going to just fly from off site and get the shots of the property that I want.
Yeah, again,
it's a challenge for them.
Yeah, people that live in those type situations, maybe they moved in, then got interested in drones, then found out. It's not worth their while a lot of times.
I live in one of those kind of neighborhoods
you
too,
do.
with the very strict set of neighborhood association rules. I've never had an issue though with flying. I live. There's a golf course probably 2 blocks away, and sometimes I've gone up to where I can see that. I do a little FPV in my front yard sometimes. All my neighbors know me and know what I do, and know that I'm into this, and so most of them are interested in it and or indifferent to it, But
and that's a good thing to reach out to your neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely.
And put let them fly it, show them how it works, show them the video. Most important, because I can't see what you're doing in your bathroom from 300 feet.
And I've also done a couple of people who were moving. I did photos of their houses for them, drone photos of their houses just for free. Just, hey, you're my neighbor. I'll take these pictures for you. There was a question earlier, and I think it was Trip Prot was the person who asked it.
And
he wanted to know Triprot. He wanted to know what the cost of these court cases can be. Like how does the money end of it get handled?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. How are you financing your journey?
Absolutely. So one, it does cost money for this. With Genesee County, we had an attorney that was very, very helpful. He is the same attorney that's helping this time through. He didn't charge us anything for Genesee County. Did that on his own time and dime, and that's tremendous. With Ottawa County, we know it is going to cost us. We expect that's going to also include the appeal, and we're thinking that's going to be somewhere in the $6,000 to $8,000 range. So we are on a fundraising effort to ask the community for help. I myself has pledged to match the first $500 of contributions. I know we've already got $150 towards that. So spend my money. Help me spend that money. And,
where can people go
if
they want to help? If they want, where do you have
I will post it in the comments. We are sending our money to the attorney Gene Greenblatt in Bloomfield Hills, and you just write MCDO donation on your check, and that will allow him to cash those funds.
Yeah. Now, if you're a lawyer, does it benefit you to have a case where precedent is set? Is that good for your lawyer portfolio? Because you'd think that more lawyers
I would say so, yeah.
would be involved in this kind of thing. There's a lot of precedent to be set all over the country in individual counties and you know.
And you know, Dean is a person, he understands that this is important to the drone community, and I know that as a result of Genesee County, he's picked up other drone cases. You know, so that's certainly helpful, especially when you're talking about this becomes a national involvement. You know, Michigan is one of 17 states that have drone preemption in their state laws. So any other states that have this crop up, he's able to consult with attorneys from those states, you know, because as a lawyer, you can't practice in another state unless you pass their bar.
Mm-hmm.
But he's actually able to consult with an attorney, say in Florida, and say, okay, Florida, you have this same preemption. Here's what we did. Here's the legal argument that you can use and follow the same path to get the same results. So it is helpful.
Good. Well, I hope we get some precedent set, and that yes, Kelly.
There's another question in the chat. Somebody was asking if either of you, and I don't, but if anyone knows about the update with race day quads and the FAA.
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you know anything about that?
So I do know that they filed their brief. They got it in on time. I've had a cursory review of that brief. Jonathan sent it to me. Brendan Schulman sent me it as well. And I like their arguments on the Fourth Amendment, especially where they're talking about, you know, the illegal search and seizure, basically, where you're able to find the individual who's flying a drone by remote ID. And you can find that regardless of whether there's any, you know, even hint of a possible crime, regardless of whether they're flying perfectly legally. So being able to, you know, track an individual, that goes against the Katz case back in the 1960s. So I think that argument alone is going to be very helpful in court to potentially knock out good portions of the remote ID regulations.
So it's like a guilty until proven innocent kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you very much for fighting the fight, man. That's
absolutely
great to have people like you out there. Let me just bring something else up while I have all of you drone experts on here. Recently, and I think with the recurrent test being so dumb easy, apparently we can take our Part 107 recurrent, we can fly at night, we can fly directly over toddlers, we can fly over cars. They're kind of loosey-goosey with all that right now. And what I heard is, and I heard this from an FAA guy, you can fly over people, but not a lot of people, and not for an extended period of time. Same with cars. You can fly over roads where there's cars, but not hover over traffic. It's all very subjective. Your take on all that?
Yeah, so with the Cat 1 drones that they're talking about, you can fly over people, but you can only fly one direction and you have to traverse. Well, okay. Yeah, so there's a big crowd. I'm just going to fly right across them and land on the other side. What's the difference if I fly back across them at another vantage point? It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
It's really stupid.
Yeah, everybody's looking for just a solid. I think it was almost better when they were just like, just don't fly over people, because everybody knew that, you know, just don't do it.
Yeah.
But now it's like, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and imagine policing that, right? So I'm a police officer and I see a drone that's over the top of a crowd that's traversing. Now I have to decide, does that person have they taken their recurrent test? So maybe they haven't. They're in violation.
Is this the first time you flew over the crowd, or am I just seeing the third time that you? It's It's so.
I mean, I would guess that the point of that is just so you're not you're not parking yourself up there or spending, minimizing the amount of time that you're over the crowd. That would be my guess.
Well, yeah, and the question there is, what harm is it going to do to even hover a Cat 1 drone over an individual? You can't lacerate somebody, right? If it falls out of the sky, it's supposed to have shrouded props or caged props so that it can't lacerate anybody. We know from the Assure reports that a drone of that size hitting somebody on the head doesn't even give them a concussion. So what's the point that you can't hover over somebody? It really goes beyond pale as to how the FAA come up with those ideas.
It seems like they're walking back a lot of these things because when you think about it, absolutely. When you think about it, the more regulations they have, then the more policing that they're going to have to do, and then that's more money. And there are no FAA police. Right. And I tell people this all the time. They ask me if it's almost dark, but I have a light and it's not bright. Can I do that? The only way you can get caught by the FAA and get in trouble is if somebody reports you, and they have to follow up on that.
Yeah.
If you cause an accident.
Or if you cause an accident, and you get the local police involved, of course. They have to investigate that. But I like
to tell officials too that when they're thinking about drones, I say, look. When we're talking about drones, think about the last time that there was a fatality with the drones. Can you tell me that? And they say, well, no. I said, well, I can tell you right off the top of my head. It was 2013 in September, and it was to an RC helicopter pilot who actually ended up killing himself by accident, right? But so we haven't had a fatality in 8 years with a drone. And yet, you allow that helicopter to fly over your house. That helicopter is one of many in the United States. Each year, 20 fatalities, in the U.S. alone are caused by helicopters. Well, helicopters fly over us, and there's that concern. Well, they have airworthiness certifications. Yeah, that didn't stop them from killing anybody, but you're going to stop me from flying a drone that hasn't killed anybody over you? Come on, give me a break.
What's the most important thing that we need to do as a community? How can we help educate the uneducated? How do we get more? I feel as soon as I got my 107, I felt empowered because I know I don't remember METARs. Who needs METARs? But like just knowing sectional charts and things like that, having the basic knowledge really does help, and it makes you think twice before you do something stupid. Because when you first get a drone, it's all like how high, how far, all this. You want to test the limits. How do we get the information to the newbies about this? Is like an advertising campaign? Do we put like a Surgeon's General warning on the drone? Do we put little stick figures on there like you put on soda machines? Don't pull the machine over on you, dum-dum. How do we reach these people?
Yeah, we always say that self-policing is the most important thing towards, the FAA becoming accepting of drone operations. I don't know that I buy that any longer. We've been self-policing for the last 8 years, right? And so we have new people coming into the hobby. They still are flying, in a rogue fashion, but we don't have injuries or deaths that are resulting that are, of great concern. So, are we going too far in that end? I like to spin it around and say the folks that we need to educate are the elected officials. To be able to go, and just as I did with Ottawa County, went to the meeting and said, look, I don't want to have a regulation in place on where I'm flying, but I do want to work with you to make sure that the capabilities of drones, that I can use the drone to help you find a criminal who's, gone off into the woods. I can help you use a drone to figure out where that Alzheimer's patient, ended up. I can use a drone to, help you map the community for FEMA to determine your flood zones. So showing them the power and goodness of drones, I think, is the better policing, right? It's anti-policing to say, help us, grow the industry, not press down on the industry.
Right. Ryan, do you fly FPV?
You know what? I don't. I need to.
You do. I think flying FPV has made me a better camera drone pilot, because you really know how the stalling capabilities. What happens when you just continue rolling. I mean, the physical properties of your drone. It does. Don't you agree, Kelly? It makes you a better all around pilot.
And also just they're two completely different experiences, but they're both great. And there's nothing more fun than having. I love it when I set up and I've got like my Mavic Pro 2 and an FPV drone set up at the same time, and I'm flying them both for something. This one's gonna film this one while it's going over or whatever. It's awesome.
It is awesome, but they are the FPV communities, like the FPV people. They're like a redhead stepchild when it comes to regulation and the FAA.
Yeah, but
they lump
but
them
the
all
thing,
together, and it's so totally different. It's so completely different. The
thing
same.
with that is you don't go very high, typically.
True.
And honestly, that is the best situation. So we're talking about, race day quads going after the federal government over our remote ID. They're the group that can really do this. They're the ones that can say, look, you think you own from the first blade of grass on up for the jurisdiction, but the reality is we aren't flying high enough that we're going to get in anybody's way in terms of an aircraft going overhead.
Yeah.
We're flying drones that are small enough that they aren't going to hurt somebody if you get hit with them, versus the AMA that's flying these jumbo things, right? That we need a runway to take off. So we're flying at the local airport and have to, communicate with the tower as to who's coming in at the time.
Right. But there's
you have
visual.
to stay away from that drone.
There's VLOS issues when it comes to FPV, because flying line of sight FPV is not as safe as flying with the goggles on, and that's just that's just the way it is. A lot of people that have been flying FPV for a while, you take the goggles off of them and let them try to fly line of sight. It's a little awkward. So it's a lot awkward. I try to do it once in a while just to keep in practice, but you can't.
Well, the best thing you can do in both those situations, and I truly believe this, I do break this rule sometimes, but is to fly with somebody else, is to have someone there, a visual, whether they're a dedicated visual observer or just someone else is keeping an eye out. Hey, there's somebody, especially where I fly a lot, and I've been flying there with Sunrise Water Media quite a bit recently. There is a big field and then there's a track. And sometimes we'll go down and fly over the track, but we don't do it if there's people there. If there's anybody on the track, I'll be flying and he'll tell me, oh, there's somebody on the track, so stay away from it. It's just, it's great to have that second set of eyes when you're doing it. I really believe that kind of the buddy system is a big help when you're trying to fly safely.
I agree, but you can't all the time.
No, you can't. And there are times when you just go out by yourself too. But ultimately, I think you're right, Ken, is that the FPV community, they're kind of the rebels, they're kind of the bad boys or whatever. But what they're doing really is more of a sport down close to the ground. And to your point, Ryan, they're not flying they're not flying Inspires, right? An Inspire could truly hurt somebody if it fell out of the air. Whereas a 5-inch quad really, it might cut you a little bit, but I've hit myself before with them and it hurts, but it's fine.
Yeah. I will let you know, along with everybody else, that the FAA has chosen me to participate in their drone safety roundtable.
Nice.
Our first meeting is tomorrow, Friday the 13th. So good luck to me. Yay.
The nuts of the roundtable.
Yeah. So, what kind of things should I haven't had a meeting yet, so I don't know how it's going to go, or whether this will be my one and only meeting.
Well, call them all Skippy to start with.
That's what I'll do. I'll say, hey there, hey sport, but I do want to be a good, I want to represent the community as best I can and offer constructive advice to them. What kind of things what should I tell the FAA, Ryan? What should I tell them if I have the chance? What should I tell them?
So to me, the one challenge that the FAA has, and they know this challenge fully, is that they don't have the policing power. And so they are looking at having local police do the policing power for them in terms of ramp checks on individuals. And, we could go into an entire, 2-3 hour conversation on ramp checks and the concerns of them. But it's the idea that if you're going to turn over that enforcement option to a local police department, you've got to train them. And the FAA has done a dismal job thus far of training police, and we see it all the time in YouTube videos, right? And so what plan do they have in place that they're going to turn that around? So Ken, there you go. That's the roundtable item I would go in with, is to say, hey, if we want to do anything and do it right, we need to look at how we train local police departments on drones.
I agree.
And to me, it's telling them, here's how, drones are good. We emphasize that versus the, hey, let's clamp down on these guys.
Absolutely agree. I hope to be a good ambassador. Maybe I can suggest, hey, use some of that infrastructure money. But anyway, hey, man, thank you so much for being on with us. Best of
Ryan,
luck
it's
to
awesome
you
to meet you.
with all of your legal endeavors, and knowing you're in our corner makes all of us feel a little bit better.
Fight the good fight every moment.
Absolutely. And I'll put in the comments where you can send donations. We're going to need them.
Excellent. And I will copy and paste that into the description of this video. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
We'll see you later, bud.